I'm Laura, and I brought a quick presentation so that you know who I am and what I am usually up to all day. So I co-founded a startup called Ghost Feel It. But I'm Laura. I'm born in Germany. I'm 29. When I went to school, I actually thought I'll never become an engineer because I thought it was very boring. But I always had a side project, and I still do. And I do hot yoga, which is basically yoga in a room of like 38 degrees or something crazy like that. So when you do it, you kind of tune out and you can only think about breathing. This is my family. I have a very big family, and as you can see, most of them I actually studied biology. And when I finished school and I said, I'll become an engineer, they were like, why would you do that? Biology is great. And yeah, and I mean, like, I love biology as well, but I don't really know what I was thinking. I just thought I love solving puzzles. I love to craft things. I love to like to do things with my hands and solve problems. And that's kind of how I went into engineering. And I realized that it's not as boring as it seemed to me in the first place. So my education actually started in Germany. I studied in Munich. I studied engineering science, and I worked as a student worker to 3D model those bar systems, as you can see there, and kind of automate that process. So you program to kind of automatically creating those beams. And I also founded a student research group where we wanted to measure the brain's activity in order to control a robot arm. That was our aim to do that. And I then went to Glasgow and studied biomedical engineering, where my master thesis was actually about making bandages smart. So having sensors integrated into the bandages themselves, and create different alarm signals, for example, for the doctor, so that you directly know if a wound, for example, is infected without needing to change the bandages or wait until you get the results from the laboratory. And then I went back to Germany, to Berlin this time, and I started working in a sensor company, since I worked in sensors in my master thesis and also in my bachelor thesis, but more not with printed kind, but with the actual hard version kinds. And then I went on to work with tactile feedback or vibration feedback. So basically what your phone does when it vibrates and tells you that you get a text message, but a little bit more high value of haptics. And this is the team that we're in right now. We're 5 people, all working in different teams. And so basically what we do, I mean, here this video, you see somebody is being tapped on the shoulder and you turn around. This is something that you know, and basically everyone else already knows because you've learned it before in the past. And this is what we call a tacton, so a sensation that you can feel and you directly know what you have to do. And if you would use those effects in products, in different products, then you can actually make a much better version of how you communicate with machines, because that's something that is growing constantly, and you have to work with, everyone has to work with machines. I mean, like, look at it right now, like we can't even normally talk to each other. We use machines to do that, and this is how we can basically improve it. And we are, for one, working on a database that collects those patterns, like being tapped on the shoulder, and automatically turning around, and for many different things, also causing different emotions, calming people down when they're stressed, and also having an interaction designer, so a software that, for example, here you can see, you can upload a video and you can quickly prototype, because that's something that is like not really possible at the moment, but you quickly prototype a vibration feedback system. And you can see here the haptic evolution. So basically, when I was born, we had very old smartphones, and we had toothbrushes that could vibrate to tell you when to change sides, things like that. So very basic alarm signals is how vibration feedback used to be used. Now it's more of a feedback function, so it can also give you signals for example, how fast how hard am I pressing a button, or do I get a text message, or do I get a phone call? So that is also changing. And now we are approaching experience creation. So it's actually more about like smart textiles. How can you lead people the way without needing to look at a map, things like that. And I brought you also an example. So here we created a car seat with Mercedes. And in the seat cover, the black here, we have vibration motors integrated in them. And they're actually spread out just like those LEDs on the board here to represent them. And for example, when the navigation system in the car, here's just a video of the navigation system, tells you to turn right, it would turn on different vibration motors that would let you know that you would have to turn right. And the way that they turned on, so either like very flashy, like very strong, short timing, that would mean like you have to turn right now. Well, if it's like a lot slower, a lot less intensity, it would tell you to turn right soon. So in 300 meters, for example. And we also did a few other projects with that. Here's another car seat, for example, that we built for Porsche. And we made people feel how they, for example, drove with Mario Kart, how it would feel to drive Mario Kart. Yeah, so basically that's enough about me. I would love to hear and answer all of your questions that you might have, maybe not only about vibration feedback, but feel free to ask me anything also about how it is to live in a family with only biologists. I don't know.
Hi, Laura. Thank you for sharing that. Then we've got lots of questions coming through already, so I'll go straight into those. We've got one from Naveed. What motivated you to start Ghost Feel It?
So basically, we originally started by having a very different goal. We wanted to make amputees feel their prostheses. So if you lost an arm, to make you recreate the feeling of your arm in your hand by mimicking them on your back, and your brain would be able to feel your lost hand on your back. So that's what we started with. And yeah, my co-founder is actually from psychology and neuroscience, has a background in psychology and neuroscience. And so she thought of this, and we were like, I think it is possible to do it from the brain part side of things, but from the technical side of things, she didn't know how to do it. So we basically came together to work on it. And it's been quite a journey since then. It's been like 2.5 years, and we ended up in the situation where we're at right now, where we decided to look also in other industries, for example, automotive industry.
We've got a question here from Lakindu and Tavindu. They're asking, when you were young, kind of what toys did you play with, and did this kind of inspire you to go into engineering?
What I really loved, I mean, I love to play with Lego and with a lot of different building blocks kind of systems. And what I was really fond of, me and my brother, we were very close, like just a year apart and a half. So we played race cars quite a lot, actually. So we had like one of those racing machines where you could build loopings and different curves and things like that. And if you went too fast, it would like kind of shoot out of the corner. That's kind of what we played with most. And I was always into crafting back then, not really electronically crafting, but kind of drawing and sewing and shading and everything that you could do with your hands.
We've got a question here from, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, I think it's Joraj. Will the car seats be in cars soon?
Well, soon, no, probably not. So this is a project that we've done last year and beginning of this year, and usually it takes about 7 years for car manufacturers to bring out a new model of car seat. So maybe we can expect it in 2030 or something like that.
We've got another good question here from Lakindu. Why did most of your family like biology?
I don't know why they like biology. I mean, my mom and dad, they both met studying biology. So I guess they were into it before they met. And then my older brother, I mean, growing up with two biologists as parents is also kind of priming you, right? They take you out to the nature, they tell you about all those different plants and about all those animals and why they're doing things, and obviously you're just fascinated by it, and I'm still fascinated by all of it. And my brother went into more cell biology and molecular biology, and I don't know why I guess this is just the urge, because you already know so much about it that you just want to continue learning, because you then realize how much there is not to know about it. When I actually started with engineering, I was like, why would I do this? We know everything about it already. What it would be there to discover? But yeah, I realized that this is the point of view when you think you know a lot about a subject, but you actually don't know anything about it. Because if you then go a little bit closer into it, you're like, oh, there's so much we don't know.
We've got another question here from Naveed. So he's asking, what are the biggest challenges you faced running your own company?
So I guess the biggest challenges is for one, I mean, we're a small company. We are like 5 people. One is to get going with big companies, because they're always scared, like, will you survive for the next half a year? If I do something with you now, will it then be lost, or how do we do that? So kind of building the trust with bigger companies to do projects with you. And it's not the easiest topic to also understand, because I mean, up to this point, if you would ask yourself, honestly, have you ever thought about if you would create whatever new product that you're thinking of, a chair or a wristband or I don't know what, have you honestly thought about including vibration feedback in a matter that would create experiences? Probably not. And there's good reason for it, because we know what is already around us, and it's not very used in that way today. So that's also something that we're struggling with, or what is one of our biggest challenges, is to let people know that vibration feedback can be a very intuitive and non-annoying way of letting people know different information and making everything more intuitive. But it's hard. I mean, if you've never tried it before, how would you know?
We've got one here from Lakindu again. So what was your favorite subject at school?
Math, I think. Yeah, I love math.
I think that's a subject that you really kind of need to kind of love if you're doing engineering, isn't it, Laura?
Yeah, I guess so. Or at least, like, you don't have to be perfect in, like, I can calculate everything in my head. You just need to love the logic and need to love solving problems. Because if you don't have the energy to work on a problem until you've found the solution for it, yeah, it's hard to. You always need to troubleshoot in engineering.
Durag's asking, will these kind of car seats, will it make the car more expensive?
No, not at this. Like, the cars, obviously, it's I don't know how they will price it, but the invention itself is not very expensive. I mean, you can get those vibration motors in volume as cheap as 10 pence per piece, right? So if you put in like 20 of them, and then you need like electronics and stuff like that, but I mean, it would maybe be another 100 pounds or something to add on to from material costs. But you never know how much they price it. So if they're like, oh, if you want this really innovation driven vibration feedback in your car, maybe it will be more expensive. But my guess is by the time this comes on the market, it's more another unique selling point, because it's like, great, look at them, they have it, I want it as well. So then you would rather buy a car where you have vibration feedback than one that you don't have it. So it's hard to tell if it would be more expensive.
So looking at Tavindu, sorry, he's also asking, do you only work with car seats then at Ghost
No.
Feel It?
Yes. Yeah, it kind of looked like it because I only showed car examples. We also created a shirt that has vibration motors in it, that could, for example, be used either for sports, to make you learn different poses and correct your movements, for example, or also for logistic purposes. So in your company, if you want to, I don't know, just imagine you're an Amazon worker and you need to find where you have to go to pick up the next packages. It could directly lead you, like, now turn left, now turn right, to the right position. Or even for VR applications. I mean, virtual reality also has a lot of possibilities on how you could interact with the world there, using this touch feedback. So we have a shirt, a seat, and we also have a belt that I didn't really go up to. It only has a few vibration motors, and is mainly for breathing purposes. So to help you breathe properly, for example, in a sports situation, or in for meditation.
Naveed's asking, are you hiring engineers on full-time basis at the moment, or do you have kind of apprenticeship schemes involved there as well?
So right now we're not hiring because we have a good set of engineers at the moment. I would say maybe in about half a year we have to grow, so that would be something that maybe would be beneficial at that point. For apprenticeships, we don't really have that at the moment. We had a few interns before, and I always look, like, if people are interested in joining us as interns, I can't really say on the spot what we need, but we would definitely consider it. And I guess that is also one of the things that I can suggest you, like, if you want to see how things work in a company, if you like the work ethics there, if you want to gain a little bit of work experience, always try to go and reach out for an internship, because those usually don't have to be listed on the website, especially not in small companies. If you have the skills you want to showcase, if you want to see how things go, you can always just reach out. I know it's scary from that point of view, but I mean, what's the worst that can happen, right?
I know you mentioned about kind of you doing hot yoga and things outside engineering. Is this where you kind of feel that you get most creative and that you can kind of design and you get your ideas from that as well?
It's always great to get out of your work thoughts or of your engineering thoughts, because you're just so much into the problem that you don't really see it anymore, right? Because you dealt with it so many times. It's like, I can't read this again. I read it 300 times. So it's great to have a method of how to get a step back and review everything from the side, so to say. And that's what hot yoga is doing for me, because I can't think of anything else. And then when I go back to work, I kind of reset, and it's like, oh, obviously this is the problem. Why didn't I spot this sooner? And so I would always encourage you, especially in university, I felt like I was always very driven, and I was like studying a lot, and I didn't really make breaks. I was like, no, I have to finish this, and then I can make a break. And like, I'll skip sports today, I don't have time for it. But don't do it. Like, it will help you get more creative and get a few things and be more productive as well.
So you mentioned about hot yoga. Is there anything else that you do in your spare time?
Yes, I have always another project that also requires like different skills, because I like to think that I'm not only good at engineering, but also like to try to venture into different spheres. So right now me and my boyfriend, we bought a camper van, and we're like now getting everything out and like insulating all the walls and getting curtains and then kind of building a new bed and cupboards and things like that, just to kind of do something with your hands, because I find it very tiring also to only work in front of a screen, to have some kind of balance.
Brilliant. So we've got a few more questions as well that have come in. So Timindu's asking, where would you work if you couldn't be an engineer?
If I couldn't be an engineer, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that really counts also as an engineer, but I really like, we touch base on programming artificial intelligence, in a small scheme. And I really love it. It's a great subject. Like, actually, programming is one of my my favorite things to do. I don't get to do it that often anymore, but I love to, as I said, I love to solve puzzles, and writing a piece of code and it's running smoothly and it actually is executing the way that you want it to is a great feeling. And I think if I would go back and have to decide what I would study today, I would, and I couldn't study engineering, I would probably study computer science or something like that, to kind of get more into programming. I don't know if that's too similar though.
No, I think that's good, because I think that's a different kind of pathway, isn't it, from engineering or around
Different
your kind of company.
Yes.
Got another one here from Naveed. So what are your potential future projects?
So
can you share them?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that I can't share with you. But one of the things that I'm also really excited about is to use this also for example, stroke rehabilitation or general rehabilitation, because vibration feedbacks for in the sense of that what we're doing could also be extended to kind of have like a whole bodysuit, or having kind of wraps that you could put on your arms and legs, and can make you focus on them in a very different way. I mean, if you had to close your eyes and you had to really concentrate on your big toe, it would be really hard to do, especially the first time. But if somebody, or if you would touch your big toe, it would be a lot easier to focus on it, because you're like, oh yeah, it's there. And using that could also help potentially a lot of people if you use it for example, stroke rehabilitation, so that you could start to move more easily, or also it could be used for post-traumatic stress syndrome, things like that. So I think that's one of the projects that we also wrote an application for, to do a research project, and that would be really exciting.
So we've just had about saying your kind of your future projects. So we've got another question from the Kindu here about saying, what was your latest project? I think you've touched on this. Was it the belts that you said?
Yeah, the last one. I mean, we did the very recent one was the one with Mercedes with the navigation seat, but we also did the belt for. I didn't really talk about it much. We did a study to compare how fast can you learn how to row, comparing visual feedback and touch feedback, and that was how, like, the belt was there to let you know when to breathe in and when to breathe out, depending on the motion that you're in. And whenever you're in the right position, it would tell you now breathe in and now breathe out. And it showed that using vibration feedback could drastically increase decrease the learning speed. So you would learn a lot faster if you had those vibration feedbacks telling you when to breathe in.
Oh, sorry, I think my mic was muted then, Laura.
Oh, no.
How long does it take to create the vibrating seats?
So, I mean, we at the moment also partially build them ourselves. So it depends on how much time we have. But usually, if we have all the ingredients, if you have all the materials at hand, I would say it takes about 2 weeks to build one. hardware wise, and then when you have the hardware, you can then go on and use the software to create the logic behind it, and that usually takes a lot longer because you need to get the input signals. So if you don't want to use one of our, like the video tool, to add tactile feedback to it, that is a lot faster. That would probably be like 2 weeks. But if you want to actually connect it to, for example, the navigation system in the car, yeah, that usually takes a few months. So usually a project of ours takes about 3 months to do it with like the testing and making sure that it's constantly working.
I think in your presentation you mentioned about that you test it with Mario Kart. How did that come about?
Oh, we love Mario Kart. And then we were like, yeah, we should let them test how it would feel like in a real driving situation. And real driving situations are actually not that exciting. I mean, not if you're at a big conference and you want to get the attraction of attention of a lot of people. And it's like, yeah, you could drive and then you could feel like what you needed to feel, but it's not that exciting. And then we're like, well, what if we let people play Mario Kart? I mean, everyone loves Mario Kart. And yeah, so that's how we came up with it. And it worked really well. I mean, people really liked it.
I think that's a really good fun idea, I think, and something that could work well maybe in schools in the future as well.
True.
We've had another question from Naveed. Now he's asking about if you had kind of more funding to expand your company, would you shift your office to Silicon Valley? But I'd also like to add to that question, say kind of, is there any places that you've kind of traveled with work that you've really enjoyed or you would like to travel to with work?
So I think I would not travel, or we would not move to Silicon Valley. Not because Silicon, I mean, like obviously there are a lot of great companies, and it's a good place to be. I mean, everyone who they're like all the big companies have some kind of offices there. But I mean, we really like the work ethics and the attitude of people in Europe, which is why we would probably not expand outside of Europe, to be honest. And I mean, like I count UK to Europe still. So this is because in the States, I mean, you have a lot of great minds, and people are also really motivated and you work a lot. But as I said, it's not the best to only work, because at one point you're not as productive anymore. So having a lot of holidays, for example, being able to go on paid holidays, or having sick leaves, and having having not to work 80 hours a week is actually a big value, I think, for not only for us but also for all our employees. So it's not a matter of funding that we're not moving to the States. It's also a matter of choice. But that being said, I mean, obviously, I would love to travel there and kind of meet more people that also work in the space, because it also has such a great vibe to it. The most exciting place I've been to with work was probably Saudi Arabia, because it's very, very different from Europe and also from the States, because it's just a very different world. That was very fascinating to me. The other furthest away thing I've been to is probably in Seattle, which is pretty, like, yeah, I guess it's probably the furthest you can get, except off New Zealand. That we don't have business in New Zealand, sadly. I would love to. Yeah, but it's always great to see different places, meet people from the industry, and see where they have their headquarters.
Yeah, I think a place like New Zealand is a lovely place to visit anyway. So to work there would be incredible. We got one from Naveed again. So, what qualities and skills do you look for in employees, or what skills do you think engineers need?
What skills? I mean, for one, I think you need motivation. If you're not working on the project because you like the project and where it can go and what the potentials are, I think it's kind of a waste of time for you and for your employer. you have to have some kind of excitement, because the motivation to learn something, then it doesn't feel like work, right? It feels like, oh, I want to go to that goal, and then you'll just go the extra, you just have the extra effort and extra motivation. So I think that's one of the intrinsic motivation is one of the biggest drivers that we would look for. The other is to have a can-do attitude, which sounds very basic, but honestly, I mean, as an engineer, you will learn how to teach yourself different skills, because there is no way you can learn everything in even in the 5 years that you're in uni, right? So you have to just be able to have the motivation, have the idea that you can do things or that you can learn things, and just try them. And that's, I think, a big skill to have, to never be afraid of learning something new, never get in the trot of, oh, I've done this before and I don't like it, or I've never done this, how do I do this, I can't do it. Just always try things and be motivated. I think that's the two main things that I look in all of the employees, not only in engineering.
You mentioned obviously you went to university studying engineering. Was it biomedical engineering at university that you were studying? Were you on any placements? Any interesting placements at university?
Placements in the sense of where I worked, or?
Yes. Did you get any job opportunities when you were at university?
Yes. So I for once worked with the university. I think I showed it previously with the bars, like to automate, to 3D model different bar systems. That was very exciting, and it showed me how like how much work, or how much it actually means to work. So I would always encourage people, if you have the opportunity, to kind of either work for the university or work outside of the university in the field, to always try and do it, because I was very motivated. I went into this job and I was like, yes, okay, so what do I have to do? And then I kind of powered through it, and it's like, okay, so what's the next thing I have to do? And soon I realized, like, it's more about understanding the goal to where you have to go, and then you kind of do a few of the tasks that you've been given, and then think of 2 other tasks that would also help you to reach that goal, and kind of just do them yourself. I think that's a great way of actually doing things, to kind of know where the goal is, and then also partially find your way yourself. So that was the one job that I did, and the other was that a few of my friends and I started a research group, a student research group, where we wanted to control a robot arm with our thoughts. Also meant for example, people who had an injury in the spinal cord and they couldn't move their arms anymore, or the legs, to kind of help them to kind of move those machines, or also possibly in other scenarios. That's kind of what we looked for, or what we looked into. But it was not paid, right? This is like something that we were really interested in, and we thought we'll do some research on it ourselves, and work with a lot of different departments from the university to use their EEG caps when they were not working with them, or to kind of borrow their robot arm when they were not working with them, and stuff like that. So that was that also taught me a lot of things, because it was very much about organizing everything. It's like, oh, please, can we use it? Is there a way that we can do it? Like bargaining with the departments. Obviously, we didn't have any money. That was a good lecture, I think. Yeah.
We've just got a question here from Naveed again. So how is the current pandemic affecting your work and your company?
So obviously it affects us in different ways, as everyone. I mean, our office is closed, and it would also, even if it were open, it would be hard for us to get to the office. I think I mentioned I live in Berlin, and Berlin has a great public transport system, but you don't really want to go with the public transport system. It's not going as frequently anymore. You have to like wear the mask constantly, but we also just feel a little bit unsafe because you don't want to spread it even more. So we're all in home office at the moment, which is partially crazy if you think about it, because we have to also build hardware. So we brought all the stuff home, and then you have the soldering machine in your living room, and yeah, but you kind of have to get things going. So that's how it affects us in that way. And the other obviously is we work with the sense of touch. So talking especially to new customers or partners, it's really nice to let them feel what it feels like, for example, to sit in the car seat or to wear the vest and kind of play around with the software and the different patterns. But obviously you can't do that at the moment. So that is really affecting us in the way that we maybe have to ship out our materials and then kind of teach them how to use it over Skype. And yeah, so that it's affecting us in different ways, but honestly, it's okay at the moment, and it's definitely good to undergo that in order to make sure that more people are safe.
Yes, I think that's really good at the moment that you can kind of work from home, and good news for you and your company that you can do that, which is nice. But obviously, there's some drawbacks with it doing that, and hopefully we can all get back to normal as soon as possible. Really, we're asking the children who are listening and young engineers who are listening to take part in our Leaders Award at competition, where they come up with an invention, think of a problem, and try and solve that problem by creating their own invention. And what we ask them to do is draw their design. Do you think this is an important kind of aspect of engineering? Is drawing out your design?
Yes, definitely. I mean, it helps you think about the problem and the thing that you want to do in a whole new way, right? If you forget to add a power source, if you want to do something electrical, then you're like, oh, obviously, where does the battery go? It helps you to clear out a lot of those details.
Can you think of any kind of themes or anything that the young engineers could think about to maybe solve? Like, I know there's things like renewable energy. Is there anything around kind of your expertise or engineering background that you can think of that needs solving?
I mean, from our point of view, it would be really interesting to either invent a whole new way of creating touch sensations. So either having a whole new vibration motor would be very interesting to come up with. And another one would be, and I think that is something that doesn't only apply to us, but to a lot of wearable solutions, is the energy problem. How do you get energy? You don't want to make people charge their devices all the time. I mean, in the car, it could be connected to the car. That's okay. But for the vest or for your smart shirt, you don't really want to charge it all the time. So it would be really great if you could somehow harvest energy. And there are a lot of different ideas on how to do that, but that's something that I think can be completely rethought. I think there's a lot of potential in that. Or also in a way, can you maybe use solar energy in a way, or how can you, I don't know, also even if you think about cars, how can you make an electric car that can maybe also be charged while it's driving? Because also charging an electric car is also a big problem. So I think there are a lot of problems that I could think of, but really, I would really encourage you to also think about what are the problems that you see, that you experience every day, or that your parents maybe experience. Just like observe things as like, oh, wouldn't it be better if you could, I don't know, fly to work because you could avoid the traffic jams, or yeah, just have a look at your daily life and see if there is a problem and if you could solve it in a way. And that basically is the whole spirit of engineering as well. So I would really encourage you to do that.
I think there's some incredible ideas there for the young engineers listening. Something that they can really run with, especially about the observation that they're looking at things around them all the time and thinking, how can I solve that? So yeah, thank you for that, Laura. Some really good advice from there. just another question here. So, as an engineer like yourself, is there any way you can contribute to solve the pandemic at all?
Yeah, we're thinking about that, and there are a lot of different ways on how different companies that you wouldn't even expect can help. So, for example, a friend of mine also runs a startup, and they do drone measurements. So they fly over roofs and measure the roofs usually. And now in the pandemic, they actually measure the streets to create broader bike ride ways. So just because there are a lot more people riding their bikes, also not only in Germany but also in the UK, and the city decided to increase the width of them in order for more people to go there and stay safe at the same time. So there are a lot of different ways on how you can support, even though it's not the most obvious one. We are supporting in a way different solutions on smart shirts that can measure your breathing rhythms, in the sense of breathing in, breathing out. Are there any is there anything fishy? Is there anything that could have signs for potential breathing outbreaks? Do you maybe potentially have to go to the hospital soon, and then kind of get alerted for that? So that's something that that we've been supporting. But wearables and especially electronics, smart textiles in that sense tend to take a long time. So I don't know how much we can actually, how fast we can get this to the market, but we're working on it.
We've got another question here. So, where did you come up with the name for your company? So, Ghost Feel It.
So we, as I said, we originally started with making amputees feel their prostheses, and we thought about what kind of name would we give our company, and we thought about phantom, since it's a phantom sensation that you receive by the definition. But we thought phantom is also very much associated with phantom pain, which is not really a great thing to be associated with. So we thought maybe we can go for something that is a little bit similar, and we came up with Ghost. There's also an anime and a movie called The Ghost in the Shell. I don't know if you guys know that. And that basically describes that it's the soul of a machine. And basically that's what we're doing. We're giving machines a new way to interact with humans, to give it a new feeling. And we love the idea of that. And then we called the company Ghost, and we thought maybe let's put Feel It behind it, so that people really understand that it's about a ghost sensation that you can feel but you cannot see.
That's a really interesting story, right, behind the creation of the company and the company name there. I think what we'll do, we'll end on this question. I think it's quite a nice one to end on, Laura, if that's okay. I think you kind of touched on it a little bit, but they're just asking, what advice would you give to young budding engineers who are kind of getting into it, or just starting maybe at primary school, having to think about engineering?
I don't know. I would not think about it in stereotypes, because this is really ruining the entire thing. And it's easy to do that and to fall back into stereotypes. Just think about it as it's a fun way of exploring different problems and finding creative solutions to it, also using technology. And I think if you stick with it that way, or if somebody would have explained it to me that way, I probably would have liked it back then in school. Because when I was in school, it's like, oh, that sounds really like there are only men in this field, and this sounds really boring, and people are just, I don't know, working with metal, and I don't know. So that's kind of what I had the stereotype and the stigma for. But it's really not. It's really about a lot of creative solutions to solve problems, and I think that really helped me, and I hope it can also help you.
I just want to say a big thank you to all those who've been watching today and sending in their questions. They've been amazing, and I hope, Laura, you've enjoyed them as well coming in. I also want to say a big thank you to you for taking time out of your day to do this for us, and I hope you enjoyed answering all those questions today.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks a lot. And there were a lot of great questions as well.
I hope you've all been now inspired by Laura to take on the Leaders Award competition and start designing your own invention and thinking some of those ideas that Laura came up with before as well. Use our resources on our website at leadersaward.com to help you, and please join us for our upcoming interviews as well. We also have an online survey we'd like you to complete. We've copied it into the chats and on the comment section on Facebook. And I just want to say another big thank you to everyone for joining us today, and I think we'll end it there. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.